Alrighty, and welcome back to another episode of 161st and River on Subway Sportsnet. And today we're going to talk some Yankees in general, really baseball. It's going to be a little bit Yankee focus off season, as things are kind of going on, and you can see in the title that the focus here is the American League East is doing a lot right now. The AL East has been probably the most active division in baseball in terms of spending and all that sort of stuff, and the Yankees have done, like, nothing, and the onus is gonna be, well, the Red Sox haven't signed a free agent yet this offseason, which is true. They haven't. But the Yankees also are the Yankees and have not brought in an external free agent yet, and there should be some concerns with this team going into next year. The notion today that the Yankee and we're gonna go through the depth chart. I posted them on socials earlier. We're gonna go through it, and I'll explain, why I believe this. The notion that the Yankees are just gonna walk into the season and win 90 games is completely and utterly asinine. So we'll start here. This stems from this. Jeff Passan broke it this afternoon. I've been following it for hours prior. In fact, I write for Last Word on Sports. I had 3 different stories on Nakamoto and where he was going. One for Toronto, one for San Diego, and one for Seattle, because those are where I believe the final 3 were. So I was aware of those final 3. I had 3 stories ready. When Feinstein sent that tweet out, I think we all thought he was going to um, he was going there, to San Diego, and then Toronto was kinda like we had heard it late last night, and I was like, "I don't know." Like, I was hoping not. Well, he did. And it's like, well, Toronto's gotten better. Now you can take 2 views on this. One, was Toronto that great last year? I mean, they got to the World Series. They came they took Seattle to a game 7. They came within inches of winning a championship and didn't. And were they that great? I don't know. I don't think they were that great. I mean, nothing really did nothing they did last year really impressed me. They got hot. They stayed hot. Apparently, the Yankees were tipping during the ALDS. And now what they're doing is they're saying, okay, we know last year could be construed as a fluke. Let's make it less fluky. Let's do this offseason now that we're a premier destinations, free agents want to go here. And let's see what we can do. And they've gone out and had a tour de force. Now, you could say, what impact player have they brought in? Dylan Cease doesn't really impress me. I'm not very high on him. That's just me. Um, Okamoto is a good role player. I don't know how he's going to be as an everyday starter facing major league pitching. That might be an adjustment for them. Losing Bichette and replacing with Akamoto, and they signed Cody Ponce. They signed Tyler Rogers and Dylan Cease. If they lose Bichette or Tucker, is their lineup that much better? It actually, in fact, I could make the argument that if Bichette does not return and they don't get Bregman or Tucker, that their lineup is worse than last year. You could probably make that argument. So what have they really done? Well, they've replaced Max Scherzer and Chris Bassett with Cody Ponce, who's a question mark, and Dylan Cease, who could be a question mark. So while there's been a lot of and the bullpen's gotten better, I will say that. So while there's been a lot of activity, it's also been improving on parts of the roster that they were able to skate by with last year and that they might not be able to skate by with in the future. That's part of the roster shift. And I think that should be stated before I get to this. And someone posted on socials earlier that they believe that whatchamacallit, that I forget what team Baltimore is the biggest threat in the East. I could probably agree with that. Baltimore's going to want to add another starting pitcher here. They are probably a bigger threat in the East than Toronto is at this point. If Toronto loses Bichette and doesn't get Tucker or Bregman, then I don't think Dylan Cease is great. I think he's okay. I don't think he's great. Cody Ponce is a question mark. He was great in Korea. We don't know what he's going to do here. And I think for the Yankee fan right now, it's more of Toronto has gotten better. They have. Baltimore's gotten better. I think Boston's gotten better. I'll talk about them in a second. I think for the Yankee fan, it's we haven't had inactivity. We haven't had any activity, and the plan from the Yankees seems to be we're just going to run it back and hope that maybe next year, you know, we're gonna be great. And the clubhouse that everyone loves so much, that the New York Post today, the quotes from Paul Blackburn, I came over in August because I sucked so bad the Mets didn't want me. And then I came over to the Yankees and their clubhouse is great. Everyone was friends. Everyone was buddy buddy. Everyone got along. They didn't have that with the Mets, and it impacted his free agency. He could have gone other places and had other roles, but he wanted to be a Yankee because he knows he fits here. Congratulations. I'm happy because for one, I'm happy with the Paul Blackburn signing. Everyone's pissed off about it because they're spending 2.5 million on Paul Blackburn, which I get. Probably not best use of 2.5 million, but you're also the Yankees. You're begging the Yankees to spend money. Well, here you go. You're going to get Paul Blackburn. And if he sucks, then guess what? They're going to eat $2.5 million. Okay. So everyone begging the Yankees to spend money and then get mad when they spend it on pieces that they like. I'm not saying Paul Blackburn is the next Trevor Hoffman. I'm not. I, but Paul Blackburn had a 1.5 ERA with the Yankees in 12 of the appearances, and he made 15 appearances with the Yankees. 12 of them he didn't give up a run, and 12 innings, excuse me. He pitched 15 innings with the Yankees. One of them he got bombed. He gave up 8 runs in 3 innings. The other 12 innings, his ERA was 1.5. And then obviously the postseason, which I mean, I don't even know if that could even be counted, because at that, if we were to count that, the Max Fried and is the world's worst. So we'll see with that. But I tweeted out earlier because I was like pissed. This is after I filed my story. I was cleaning up from like Christmas decorations, and I was like, every passing day, the Yankees do nothing. The AL East has gotten better. Bellinger's not enough. It's not. And we're getting to the point where they need a starting pitcher. I'll show the depth chart in a minute, why they need a starting pitcher. We'll do the pitching, then we'll do the hitting depth charts. We'll do that. They need a starting pitcher. They need at least one impact reliever. I mean, some of the names in this bullpen next year, I could say I'm high on this guy, I'm high on that guy. I haven't seen them do it. I'd rather be certain on a person where it's like, okay, what are we certain on? We're certain right now on one guy. That's David Bednar. I want to be certain on about 6 guys in the back of the bullpen. There's 8 relievers. I want 6 guys that I know. Then you can have your fixer-uppers. The Yankee lineup, the fact that they're banking that Austin Wells is going to all of a sudden turn it on, and fix it because he regressed, let's call it. Ben Rice, I wholeheartedly think he'll improve. The fact that we think that Anthony Volpe is going to be perform like a major leaguer is might be the funniest part of all. We all know Anthony Volpe is not a major leaguer. We all know that. So, with all that being said, The Yankees have work to do, and the reason they haven't done it is because they're waiting on Bellinger, which is insane. Why do you think the reports are coming out from the New York Post with Heyman, specifically John Heyman? Because Heyman will say anything. He gets a text from anyone. He'll put anything out. He's not ashamed of it. He heard a secondhand person in the lobby at the 2022 winter meetings say that they think that Aaron Judge is going to the Giants, and he tweets out Aaron Judge is going to the Giants. And then obviously that was probably one of the biggest misses in reporting history, which I feel a little bit bad for John on that because John is a good reporter and a good guy, but it's a big miss. And what I mean with all this, what I'm trying to say is the Yankees haven't done enough, and they aren't going to do enough. Baltimore's gotten better. Boston has gotten better. Boston might not have signed a free agent, but they've made a bunch of trades. They acquired Jose Oviedo, who's going to be good. Sonny Gray doesn't move me at all. I think he's actually worse than some of the options that they had. If your idea of replacing Lucas Giolito is with Sonny Gray, then you're worse than you were. Jose Oviedo is good. And if you're replacing Dustin May and Walker Buehler with those two, then you're a better team. And they are still looking, right? Because their crochets, I mean, their rotation right now is what? Crochet, Bayo, Sonny Gray, Jose Oviedo, and Connolly earlier, Peyton Tully would have the 5 spot, whoever wins it out of camp. That's who I think. So that rotation's fine. Like, it's fine. Their lineup is going to be better. I mean, look, the Yankees wild card series win was great because we got to see Cam Schlittler and the drama in game 2 of Jazz running the bases and Volpe telling him to slide, and it was drama and it was fun, and it's what the postseason is supposed to be, right? That was great. How many times in either of those games could they have lost it? And if the Red Sox were healthy, and I know we could say if till the end, we can say, you know, if Joe Torre pulled Jabba Chamberlain out in 2007 with the midges, do they beat Cleveland? If Houston didn't cheat in 2017 and 19 and Boston in 18, do the Yankees advance and maybe win a championship? We can play the if game, infinitely. But this does apply now. If the Yankees are trying to run this back and the Red Sox are getting better and Roman Anthony's going to be healthy and they sign Alex Bregman back, and that's an if because he could go to Arizona tomorrow, then what the hell's the Yankees' plan? Because they already got Contreras, so you're better at first than the platoon they had there last year. So then what's your plan then? Because if you had Roman Anthony in that lineup for games 2 and 3, right? You can easily make the argument that the Yankees get swept because of Anthony's impact. Or, we could also go the opposite, that Anthony would have been a no-show and they would have won easier. But that's the thing. If Roman Anthony's healthy, Marcelo Mayer's healthy, those are impact guys for the Red Sox. That's going to make them better. Having guys healthy is going to make them better, and I think the Yankees haven't counted that yet. I think they're counting on that. Well, the Yankees beat them last year in a postseason series and got unlucky against the Blue Jays. No, the Blue Jays kicked your fucking faces in for 3 days, for 5 days, whatever it was. They kicked your faces in. You went like 11-5 against them the whole season. 11-6, excuse me. They went 11-6 against the Blue Jays all year, regular and postseason combined. They won one game in not 11. They won. What happened? What was it? They went like 1-4, 5, 6, 7. They went 1-9 up, or 1-8 up in Toronto last year. 1-8 or 1-9, something wacky. They couldn't win in that ballpark. And what we all of a sudden and it goes back further than that. And we all of a sudden think that, they're just gonna flip a switch and be better. They're not. Not if you're gonna run it back. Not if what's being reported in the New York Post today is accurate, from Blackburn, that everyone was so happy-go-lucky in the Yankee clubhouse. Now, look, he got here and they were winning, alright? He got here at the end of August, right before the 4-game set against Boston. They lost that series, and then they took off, right? They lost the series against Boston. They won on Sunday Night Baseball. Then they played the Nationals. They swept the Nationals, and then they played the White Sox. Should have swept them, went 3 out of 4 against them. You know, Houston, they took 2 of 3, should have swept them, but, the umpire game went up to Fenway Park, took 2 of 3 against the Red Sox up at Fenway Park, lost the game with Will Warren. More on that in a minute because I have concerns about Warren. Then they no-showed completely against Detroit in games 1 and 2. Game 3, they were great. That was Schlittler on September 11th. And then they actually were able to beat 2 of 3 against the Toronto Blue Jays. They were hot in September. This has been a theme, and they won out. They won 8 in a row to win out. They were a good September team this past year. That's great. Fan-freaking-tastic. That's when Blackburn was here. Blackburn wasn't here when they were losing, when it was reported over the summer by The Athletic that they were complacent and losing and happy getting on the plane out of Miami, out of that fucking hellscape. And everyone's happy and high-fiving and blah, 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 and yeah, we're drinking beers. You just got swept by a team that stinks. You just got swept by a team full of nobody, and everyone's happy. That's the problem I have, is the mentality from the top down that they're complacent and fine with losing. Boone is Mr. Happy. Then you have Cashman, who's the 5th Steinbrenner. Anthony Volpe is the 6th Steinbrenner. He can do no wrong. So everything with Bo Bichette, everyone's like, oh, the Bo Bichette rumors are false. They're not. I checked in on it. They're not. The Yankees legitimately are interested in Bo Bichette. That's a fact. Now, they are only interested in Bichette if Bellinger walks, I believe. Now, I'd be impressed and surprised if they sign both, and I vouch here that they need to sign both in order to be better. If they are serious about winning a World Series, they need Bellinger and Bichette, because Bichette would then go to shortstop, then they can't trade Jazz, which that's been around a lot. The whole thing that he's the second best second baseman in baseball, I think, is a little bit overblown. I don't think he is that good. He's also not meeting what the Yankees really want right now, and it's like contact and consistency and all that sort of stuff. If this was last offseason, I mean, I think Bichette's already here, but it's not. The Edmund Rosario signing was necessary. They need more. They need Bellinger and Bichette and a starter and a high-end reliever. It's not happening. So Toronto's still not finished. Okay, I hope everybody knows that. Cespedes Family Barbecue already said that they might be doing 2 more big signings this offseason. They're going to have a tour de force offseason because they don't want this to be a one-off. They want this to be the model. They want to win it all. They have an ownership that wants to win a championship and does not care how much money it takes, like the Guggenheims. The Yankees, on the other hand, have an ownership that as long as they're over 500 and they really tried, it doesn't matter because the playoffs are a crapshoot. Well, guess what? The team that lost the World Series is having a good offseason. The team that beat you. The team that, if they fielded the same team next year, would have been kind of close to probably the same place. Now, I also think they played so far over their heads that this is necessary that they are still going to regress to the means next year. I don't think they're going to be as great as they were last year, as high and mighty. I also don't think they're going to be as bad as they were. They're going to be somewhere in the middle. They're going to try and compete. They're going to compete. But I also don't think they're going to be playing so far over their heads. And I don't think the Yankees are going to be as bad as they were last year defensively because they're going to have a full season of McMahon. And if they do this correctly, they're gonna have platoon options. So let's look at the rotation before we look at anything else. So I posted these on socials. So heading into opening day, and there's a reason I did it like this. I I did it based on what this team is gonna look like on the first day of the season, which I believe is like March 25th, the 26-man roster when we get it on the morning of the 25th or evening of the 24th, or it'll probably be afternoons as they're playing at 8 p.m. out in San Francisco. This is their starting rotation. We're going to likely look at if their pencils down, which I don't think they are. I think what's going to end up happening is when Bellinger resigns, hopefully soon, that'll then be like, okay, we can then trade Spencer Jones. We could trade this piece and that piece to go get a starting pitcher. The prices are exorbitant. I think the Yankees are going to understand that they are going to have to do it. That, whether it's Mackenzie Gore, I think the Yankees should go out and get Freddie Peralta and Tyler and Trevor McGill from what team is that? Milwaukee. I think they should just do whatever it takes to get both. It's going to be a lot, but you know what? You need to win a championship. So Max Fried will anchor the rotation. Then Cam Schlittler, Luis Heel is third in that rotation. Will Warren, fourth in the rotation, and Ryan Yarbrough will be your fifth starter as of now. And the Yankees are going to be like, well, we have depth. We have Garrett Cole coming off of Tommy John surgery. We don't know what he's going to look like coming off of Tommy John surgery, and that should be a concern for the Yankees, that they do not know what he's going to look like coming off of Tommy John, because he might suck coming off of Tommy John. We don't know. Then you're going to have Carlos Rodon, who had a very good season last year, but we've seen how bad he can be coming off of an injury. And if the starting rotation is not performing well in the first few weeks, both him and the Yankees are going to rush to get him back. That's a prediction. If the Yankee starting rotation is struggling, they're going to rush him back because they're going to think, oh, well, Rodon's fine. He'll be the saving grace. And then boom, Rodon's going to suck. That's my fear, because they did it with Luke Weaver. They rushed him back, and he allowed them to because he didn't stand down. They rushed him back, and he sucked. They rushed him back because the Yankee bullpen couldn't get you out last year. And that's on Brian Cashman, because they decided to let's screw around and do nothing with this bullpen like they're doing now. And Clark Schmidt isn't going to be back till like September. So your minor league depth is going to be Elmer Rodriguez, Carlos Grande, and Ben Hess. Any one of those three could be traded tomorrow. I think Elmer Rodriguez is safe. The other two could be traded tomorrow. And I wouldn't be mad at it. I think they're all great pitchers. I wouldn't be mad at it, because at the end of the day, minor league depth is a token, is a lottery ticket. Cam Schlittler, you pretty hit the lotto with. Luis Heel is in there. I wrote a column on him potentially going to the bullpen. If the Yankees were to go out and get a Freddie Peralta and put Freddie Peralta in the Yankee rotation and take Luis Heel and put him in the bullpen, then Ryan Yarbrough for 5 starts is fine, because Freddie Peralta is significantly better than Luis Heel. And Luis Heel then can make up would be an asset somewhere else on your team. And Ryan Yarbrough then would go to the bullpen when Rodon comes back, and they're not going to have to rush him back. And then when Cole comes back in late May, early June, then Will Warren goes to AAA, as long as no one else is hurt, right? They might phantom IL a guy because, of whatever reason, and Warren might take a step in the right direction. He pitched kind of well this year. There were some starts that were great. He struggled against the division, and that is something that needs to be brought up. Will Warren did not pitch well against the American League East this past year. Well, why is that? Because they saw his stuff familiar. They were familiar with his stuff. He mastered Oakland or the Athletics. Pitched really well against them. The first time he pitched against Minnesota was great. The second time, horrible. It was the same with Schlittler. And I think Schlittler, he was able to make the adjustment against other teams, so I'm not as worried about him. And he pitched really well against your division. I am worried about how Will Warren's going to pitch in your division as it gets better, how he's going to handle those bats, and a little bit with Schlittler as well, but Warren more so. His ERA was 9 against the Red Sox. Wasn't great against Baltimore, and they stunk. I think he made one or a couple starts against Tampa. He got chased in like the third inning down in Tampa. They still won the game, but and that was more on the Yankee offense than him. He got chased in Tampa. He's just too inconsistent that you bank on him. Now we look at the bullpen. David Bednar, he's one of those guys that I mentioned before that's like, okay, we know he's going to be good. Camilo, the same thing. I think Camilo Duvall is going to be fine. I think having a full spring training with him and the Yankee staff, I think having a full offseason with the Yankee plan, I think that helps him. I think he got more comfortable as the season went on. I think the way he looked in the postseason is a good step in the right direction. I like Fernando Cruz. I would love to bump him down in the depth chart, but that's just me. Tim Hill can only really pitch against left-handed batters, so that takes pretty much one side of the plate completely away. Brent Hedrick actually impressed me last year, and if he had to be in this bullpen, he could be. The thing with him, he has minor league options. Cade Winquist has to be on the 26-man roster if they like what they see. If not, they can designate him for assignment. He'll be offered back to the Cardinals in exchange for 50,000. I think it's 50,000. If the Cardinals don't want him, then he'll just be designated. He'll go through the waivers. If no one picks him up, then he'll go back to Scranton. Jake Bird has minor league options, and he's on here because Jack Curry says that the Yankees like what they saw. Well, I hope they like the 7.5 ERA they had in AAA because he stunk. And Paul Blackburn, as I mentioned before, fine depth piece. If he's good, he's great. If he's good, great. If he's not, who cares? Now, here's your Yankee lineup. I have Dominguez leading off. I'm going to let you know that when Bellinger is back, and I am saying when because, obviously anything can happen, but I feel like there's just so much smoke industry wide right now that pretty much every insider from Robert Murray FanSided to John Heyman to Mark Feinstein, you name the reporter or the writer. I think Paston's the only one who hasn't really said anything. Oh, he said, I think he did this week. The shock, it would be surprising around the league right now if Bellinger and the Yankees don't find a resolution soon. That's pretty much what this comes down to. It's pretty much a when, not if at this point, is what it's sounding around the league. So that's something. Aaron Judge's judge. Trey Grisham, I have batting third. Obviously, that would change if Bellinger would be back because I think Bellinger would bat third. And then, somewhere down the lineup, another guy would come out because they'd have Ben Rice batting first. You know what? They would probably have Grisham bat fifth. And then the rest of the lineup would look similar. And the lineup isn't going to be horrible. And I think that's also important. The lineup was very good last year. And you're going to have a full season of Rosario against left-handed pitching, and he mashes left-handed pitching. You're going to need another platoon for against left-handed pitching. You are. You're going to need an outfielder, a center fielder, to go against left-handed pitching. If that's Austin Hayes, who could play left, and then you could slide over Bellinger into center, that's great. That works. And you also have to remember when Stanton has his annual injury, you can then play around and give Jason Dominguez some playing time that I think would be valuable. You're also going to have Oswaldo Cabrera, who could play on the infield. I think I have Caballero here on the graphic. I think they'll share some time at short. I do think Cabrera will get starts, probably against right-handed pitching sometimes. I think Caballero will get against both. But if you have a tough right-hander, I could see them going with Cabrera over Caballero and then having Caballero in there later on. We'll see with this. And McMahon, I think McMahon might improve this year, based on the indications that, he's been working with them this offseason. He's been working with the driveline guys. So is Caballero. And we'll see what they do. I mean, for all they could, turn into something great here and be better than they were last year. If you have improvement from guys like Wells and Volpe when he returns and McMahon, those everyday guys, and they're hitting, like if McMahon hits league average or slightly below it with his pop, which is another thing, you're going to have a full season of what, 20 home runs over there at third base. You didn't have 20 home runs at third base last year. You had the few he hit. You had one from Cabrera. Who else played third base last year? DJ LeMahieu hit like 2. And then they had to move him to second base. So it gets skewed because Jazz hit some home runs while he was playing third. So it gets skewed a little bit because of that. But I count Jazz as the second baseman. So what, you had like 4 home runs before McMahon came over from third base? And then what, McMahon hit like 4 or 5 when he was here, so 9. So you're adding 11 home runs to your total from third base. Like, that's impactful. That's something that should interest us. So we'll see that. And I think Wells should take a step in the right direction, and we'll see. And Caballero hit for a little bit more power when he was with the Yankees. We'll see. So for now, the Yankees have work to do. The pitching, I don't think, is enough. Bellinger coming back solidifies the lineup, I think. Now, Bichette would be fantastic because then you have a better lineup and a better rotation and a better bullpen, and everything's better. But Bellinger is still the best fit for this team, even though Bichette should interest them. Bellinger is still the best fit for this team. The rotation, everyone thinks it's so great. It's not going to be great for a while, and Cole's an uncertainty when he does return. And the bullpen, I don't even know what to say with the bullpen. We'll see with the bullpen. I'm going to leave it there for tonight and go watch some football before the postseason begins. I'll have Giants coverage on Sunday. If you're watching this on Sunday, I'll do the live vlog and have a story after it. If you're watching this Monday, you can go read my story. It's up on my socials by now. Hopefully updated with quotes from Kafka and Dirt and whoever else makes an impact. And that'll be that. So thank you very much. Have a great night. Go Yankees. And can Bellinger please sign a race so they can do something? All right, bye.